This episode is sponsored by ExtraHop. ExtraHop provides threat detection and response for the enterprise, not the starship. On-prem security doesn't translate well to cloud or multi-cloud environments, and that's not even counting IoT. ExtraHop automatically discovers everything inside the perimeter, including your cloud workloads and IoT devices, detects these threats up to 35% faster, and helps you act immediately. Ask for a free trial of detection and response for AWS today at extrahop.com/trial. Good morning, AWS, and welcome to the AWS Morning Brief. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn, and we begin once again. But first, if you visit lastweekinaws.com/products, you can buy your very own Billy the Platypus coffee mug. Why? Because I have problems and a graphic designer. Take a look. Just please, whatever you do, don't use them in lieu of a bathroom. Now, what happened last week in AWS? Well, people are getting tired of all of the peeing in warehouse bottles jokes, so AWS decided not to go in that direction anymore. Just kidding. Amazon EC2 autoscaling introduces warm pools to accelerate scale out while saving money. So, hot on the heels of their unforced error regarding warehouse workers having to urinate in bottles, AWS releases a service whose name clearly evokes people peeing in places they aren't supposed to. It's becoming increasingly hard to accept that someone in their messaging org isn't just doing all of this for the attention. AWS CloudFormation command line interface now supports TypeScript. Every time I'm reminded that there's a CloudFormation command line tool, my brain makes me forget it as a safeguard for what little remains of my sanity. Whoop, there it goes again. What were we talking about? AWS Step Functions adds new data flow simulator for modeling input and output processing. AWS Step Functions gains better usability. At this rate, Step Functions may one day be a more accurate name than my suggestion of black box. AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store now supports removal of parameter labels. Today I learned what parameter store labels are. To save you from several rounds of clicking and Googling, picture someone redesigned tags from first principles without the cost allocation parts. New AWS Solutions implementation, Amazon S3 Glacier Refreezer. With a name that sounds like an AWS conference and a hilariously complicated architecture, all to effectively copy the contents of a Glacier vault into an S3 bucket, it's clear that this post exists only to troll everyone. Amazon Code Guru Reviewer updates, new predictable pricing model up to 90% lower, and Python support moves to general availability. So, after the preview period, AWS was shocked to discover that customers prefer predictable pricing that doesn't mean the intern is one bad pull request away from sending the bill into Guam's GDP territory. In turn, I'm shocked that they fixed the pricing with a better outcome for everyone instead of their usual tactic of pretending these problems don't really exist. Migrate data into Amazon Elasticsearch using remote reindex. While the blog post talks about using this feature to migrate into Amazon Elasticsearch, the documentation clarifies that it does indeed support getting data the hell out of that nightmare service as well. This episode is sponsored in part by Chaos Search. As basically everyone knows, trying to do log analytics at scale with an elk stack is expensive, unstable, time-sucking, demeaning, and just basically all around horrible. So why are you still doing it, or even thinking about it when there's Chaos Search? Chaos Search is a fully managed, scalable log analysis service that lets you add new workloads in minutes and easily retain weeks, months, or years of data. With Chaos Search, you store, connect, and analyze, and you're done. The data lives and stays within your S3 buckets, which means no managing servers, no data movement, and you can save up to 80% versus running an elk stack the old-fashioned way. It's why companies like Equifax, HubSpot, Klarna, AlertLogic, and many more have all turned to Chaos Search. So if you're tired of your elk stacks falling over before it suffers, or of having your log analytics data retention squeezed by the cost, then try Chaos Search today and tell them I sent you. To learn more, visit chaossearch.io. Best practices for migrating PostgreSQL databases to Amazon RDS and Amazon Aurora. Here's a whole bunch of technical detail on how to migrate a database, and only in the conclusion will I mention in passing that AWS Database Migration Service is another option you could use. Feels remarkably on brand for AWS. Export and import data from Amazon S3 to Amazon Aurora PostgreSQL. This distills down to Amazon Athena with deterministic query performance. AWS and Verizon expand 5G collaboration with private MEC solution, or MEC, depending, don't argue with me. So this is actually kind of neat. It's an outpost plus a 5G microcell site on your factory floor is my understanding of what this is. I'm starting to wonder if I'm right and if I could borrow one for testing. 10 steps to deploy a multi-region e-commerce strategy. Step 11 is Amazon crushes you into the dirt. Acoustic anomaly detection using Amazon Lookout for equipment. And this is complete nonsense because the service isn't named after a listen for equipment sign on the factory floor. No, vision only. Edge caching on AWS Wavelength. Wavelength hasn't been clear on what it is or how it solves customer problems yet. In fact, it feels vaguely promising, but this post makes it feel like it's a complicated, expensive, and possibly somewhat limited equivalent to a CDN, and I don't believe that that does what Wavelength is justice. Let me dig into that some more. Guest post, Amazon IVS for virtual events and presentations. That's right, because when it comes to excellent virtual events and presentations, Amazon is the first name most of us think of. And finally, IAM Access Analyzer makes it easier to implement least privilege permissions by generating IAM policy based on access activity. So this is awesome. You overscope an IAM role, intentionally for once, then it looks at CloudTrail after the log messages get delivered via Pony Express, and then it eventually constructs a scope down policy for you that just allows the observed actions. Now I just want an option to do all of this automatically and not tell me about it. And that's what happened last week in AWS. I'm cloud economist Corey Quinn. Stay salty, my friends.
This has been a Humble Pod production. Stay humble.